Ah, yes. Hollow Knight. The game that I would argue is one of the bests ever created. And we're going to be exploring something a little bit different than what is standard for my type of content, because we're going to be looking at two boss fights. Two boss fights that on the surface are very similar, but two boss fights that couldn't be farther from the same. And one is my favorite boss fight that is in this game, and one that is the bane of my existence. But if you don't know where this is in Hollow Knight, don't worry. This is not only DLC in God Home, but this is also well after the game has been beaten. Usually, you can do it. You can do it without having beaten the game, but most players will have at least beaten the Hollow Knight once before we're here. And if it wasn't clear already, there's spoilers. It is what it is. This game has been out for a long time, so I waited a while to make a video on it. So the two bosses that we're actually going to be exploring today are the Mantis Lords, arguably the best video game boss fight ever to exist, and then probably the worst video game boss to ever exist in Hollow Knight. And I am struggling so much to actually get up there. My skills are not what they should be. Um, but arguably one of the worst boss battles in this game, as we're going by all the dream bosses, are the Watcher Knights. They suck. But we are not going to start with them because I would like to start with a good boss fight, not a bad one. So let's start with the Mantis Lords, and we'll go through just a normal boss fight. I am gonna put them on a ascended because no, let's put it on a tune because the music's good. And I do know I have the audio levels pretty low so you can hear me. Hollow Knight's just usually a loud game, anyways. But let's go through these two boss fights, shall we? First up, we have the Mantis Lords. And one of the reasons that I like the Mantis Lords so much is, well, number one, I mean, look at them. Their design is amazing. For a game all about bugs, you'd expect the praying mantis to make an appearance, and it does. They do. And they are the three sisters in battle, the Mantis Lords. But besides their design, their boss fight is amazing. It is a little bit of an earlier game boss fight in the Fungal Wastes, but it teaches you some pretty interesting mechanics. And it teaches you right off the bat, well, these boss fights are not going to be necessarily the easiest boss fights in the world, but what I liked right there is we took down the first sister before we have the other two. So we were able to learn the Mantis Lord's movements before we had the challenge of fighting both of them. Now, the Sisters in Battle fight, you have all three of them, but for the sake of argument, we're going to just stick with the two because that's what you normally would face in the beginning of the game. So you've got the second two, which do very similar movements. The only difference is just where their blades are when they throw them from this. Oh, I got hit. From the sides of the arena. But the bigger thing is that it's almost like a dance. The way that this is set up, you are dancing with the two sisters as you're going through, and it makes this. Oh, I just got whacked in the face. Oh, we got one. This makes this battle very, very amusing. And I think it's my favorite boss fight period ever. But there we go. We danced with the three sisters, and the best part of this game, you have to bow to them. I loved that boss fight for a variety of reasons. Number one, it was a dance, and they did a good job of teaching the mechanics of the Mantis Lords, by giving the first sister as a way to learn the movement before throwing me in with more than one. It taught me the movement very well. It also is a fixed camera in an arena that you can see the entirety of. So you know exactly what's happening all the way around you. That is not so the case with the Watcher Knights. The Watcher Knights admittedly are a later game boss fight, and that is to be expected that there would be difficulty. But the bigger thing for me is we have ourselves scrolling in our screens and that's just not good. Because I can't see what's happening currently on the right hand side of. Oh, I got hit. On the right hand side of the screen, I couldn't see that there was another one coming in, and the window for me to learn the movements before there's already another one is so much smaller. I I can't master the movement through defeating one of the Watcher Knights before there's a second one. So it's very difficult to be able to learn without having to go through the boss fights several times. I am struggling, but that's kind of my main complaint is that it takes a little bit longer than I think is necessary to learn a boss fight. I mean, this is Hollow Knight and unfair boss fights. It's par for the course, but ouch. It just seems like the Mantis Lords had such a bigger window for you to learn mechanics before you actually had to get thrown in the deep end with the boss fight. The only saving grace is in the actual first encounter. You can get rid of one through some intentional cheese, by just removing the chandelier. But please let me beat them. Okay, we got them both at the same time. Let's go. So we only have these last two left. Okay. I think I can live with that. But like I was saying, it just seems like with the combination of the screen scrolling and the lack of time to learn the movement makes this boss battle feel so much less fair than the Mantis Lords. And I really didn't expect the difficulty curve here. The Mantis Lords and even the boss fight which I found very difficult, the broken vessel, the broken vessel boss fight, I also struggled with, and I died combined to those. I combined, I died to the Mantis Lords and the broken vessel, a grand total of 21 times. Which, yes, I really struggle. My skill is terrible. The amount of times I died to the Watcher Knights on my first playthrough was 47. 47 times. Over double on just one boss fight than two of the most well-known, well, arguably one of the most well-known and best cherished boss fights in the game. And I died to them too many times that I was very frustrated. The Watcher Knights made me want to put the game away, which is not how a boss fight in a game should work. But on the other hand, the Mantis Lords, I was so addicted that as soon as I unlocked Godhome, I went right and grinded out until Radiant was completed on the Mantis Lords. And Radiant is a one-hit kill and is very difficult. But I was so ready for it. And I really just died right there. But yeah, I just really loved the Mantis Lords because here's the similarities. Mantis Lords and Watcher Knights. Both instances, you have multiple bosses that you're fighting at the same time. The difference is how long it takes you to learn them and how the learning is presented and how you can see the arena. Those are the big two takeaways for me. Is how well you can see the arena and how you are learning the mechanic based on the first instance of battle.